Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. Today's video is a bit of a crazy one. It was also part of a subathon, and well, my viewers challenged me to play a game without a single piece of chaff. And this replay is the result. I'll be up against Moondroid. This was on my main account, so the MMR should be somewhere up and around, 2k to 2.2k MMR. I think Moondroid is probably around the 1900s or so. And I was not allowed to pick chaff in my starting pack. So I decided to go for hounds and steel balls. Now, the deal was that I was not allowed to build crawlers, fangs, and wasps ever. Now, I was allowed to make use of techs that would spawn chaff. So something like Fortress with fang spawn was allowed. Something like steel balls with mechanical division was allowed. And that was kind of going to be my main goal from the start. Not to build any crawlers, but trying to build enough steel balls and then spawn them that way, because honestly, building absolutely zero chaff, even through those techs, would be impossible at my MMR level, and still, what I'm about to attempt here has, a lot of risks and a few counters, like, for instance, Hacker. Whether or not my opponent will play that, we'll have to see. So I am setting up on the left side here, and I'm basically kind of using my hounds here as well as chaff in their own right. The matchup's not too bad. My opponent starts with fangs and steel balls, so we have a bit of a mirror. But, hounds are very good into fang. They do one-shot them, unlike crawlers. So I was pretty happy about that. Now, round one, right, normally here I would just go double crawler and call it a day, but I can't do that. I am cost control specialist. My opponent is a typhoon specialist. So what I can do is build a third steel ball and a fourth hound. The third steel ball is going to go on the line because, eventually I want mechanical division, and hopefully my opponent just kills the steel balls, which would create some crawlers in the front line to help me out. The hound on the right was there to kind of try and stall in a way if my opponent ends up there, which he does. Now, of course, the hounds won't be providing too much of a stopgap, but I stall a little bit. I get the tower first. Usually this doesn't do too much in these type of crossfire scenarios. My opponent gets the tower second, and now it's just going to be about trying to cover the distance and getting to this anti-armor cannon, hopefully without too many of my steel balls dying. Looks like we're okay. The hounds should take care of those fangs. Sadly though, look at that, one steel ball is on my tower. Now I think we get by somewhat alright. My steel balls do recover from the second debuff, and now it's pretty much even Stevens. Likely my opponent will win because he has some arc lights, and yeah, there we go. So round one, sadly, we do end up losing, but not the end of the world. Round number two, Assault Fortress shows up, Rhino Assault shows up. We also have a redeploy, which is what I decide to go for. Rhino Assault here, definitely worth considering too, although there are some fangs in the back here, so it would mostly be to try and defend my own backline. In this scenario, I wasn't, I think, too concerned about the Rhino Assault. I had 4.4k hit points, so, if my opponent wants to go for the Rhino, then let them do that. I can't defend against that realistically without messing up my whole board. I would have to throw a steel ball somewhere in the back. Don't want to do that. Instead, round number two here, I'd like to go for Wraith, which was, the main idea. What is the strongest comp that I can build that wouldn't use chaff, but would be allowed to use something like Mechanical Division? Ball Wraith. Mechanical Division, super strong. Ball Wraith, very, very potent comp. Usually, you kind of do need the crawlers, because otherwise you get a bit too vulnerable to things like, EMP Raiden or hackers mostly. But hey, let's try and make it work. So we go Wraith here on round number two. I redeploy one of my steel balls to the right, which is going to go on the line. A Wraith right behind, and then a little hound here to try and chaff clear a bit. Looks like my opponent moved a fang onto my flank. So what he was trying to do here is pull my hounds away so he could get to the tower quicker. But, I mean, sadly for him, I did put more units over there. 3 units, in fact, to try and stop him. A fang on that shallow flank as well. That's not a problem whatsoever. It does stall my steel balls though, so I guess maybe a little bit of a problem, because now I'm not going to have the damage to kill 2 steel balls with that one Wraith I have. My opponent did pick up a Phoenix round 2, which is a sensible choice. If you don't have upshoot on round 2, especially in aggro scenarios, the best thing you can do is buy a Phoenix. it's a very good unit. You know, good deployment efficiency, amazing DPS, really quick, and a flying unit, so has potential to win rounds by default if your opponent has no anti-air. So yeah, good round for them here. We still do have, you know, that left side push, which was successful. We should be able to clean up at least a few more units, but the Phoenixes here are going to be farming. I wasn't too concerned yet, though. Again, like, we are in the process of setting up the board. I'm not too unhappy about this. My opponent went for a Fang on that flank. That's not going to achieve too much. The one in the bottom right also not going to do that much. So if we manage to build the board like we want to, we should be in a completely fine spot. Now, there are a bit of a level disadvantage here. Let's be real. There are Steel Ball levels available, Phoenix levels available. We have the unit drop here. Marksman drop. A bit scary, and yeah, my opponent does pick it. Wasn't too happy about that because the Marksman has access to anti-air, which is a lot scarier than something like Phoenix, in my opinion, when you play Wraith, because the Phoenix, while it's strong, does not have that ability to kind of shoot past certain units and have that prioritized targeting mechanic that the Marksman has access to. I decided to go for the level 2 Tarantula here, mostly because I likely will want to sell it long term, but you know, at level 2 here, it shouldn't be that weak of a unit, and it should be able to help me out a little bit with the chaff clear, but also with the DPS, considering it is a bit higher level than you would normally expect on round 3. I do manage to grab a level on one of my steel balls myself, which is why I move another steel ball here to the right. And at this point, you know, again, I can't build crawlers, so the best I can do is try to build as many steel balls as I can, so that eventually when I do press mechanical division, I get some good value out of that. Opponent here goes double sledge in front of the left tower. Very, very good unit to try and stall these type of ball. Hound pushes. It's also good into Wraith. So yeah, I mean, left tower is going to be a nightmare to get into for sure. I go for another Wraith as well. We do need some form of chaff here. I will say, though, my opponent is rather light on the small units themselves. This time around, though, we managed to get in. That steel ball level does great. We should be able to farm up those Phoenixes as well. Maybe I don't win. I still have to go to the left and kill those marksmen, which is always a bit of a tall task when you're playing low-range units like the Wraith. Maybe, though, my Tarantula can do something. It is still level 2 and full health at that. We take out the small turret. We take out some of those walls. Looks like we might end up getting debuffed, though, and that is a disaster, really. It happens at the worst possible moment, and, well, both of my Wraith just die, basically unable to do anything. My Spider tries its best, but getting through all of those sledgehammers with the cost control debuff is a little bit too much to ask. So we find ourselves at 3.5k as we get to the last round of the early game, round number 4. Efficient Tech Research here shows up. Seemed like a good item. There is a mobilized battleship as well. Quick teleport could have been worth considering. I tend not to like picking up mobilized battleship this early if I'm behind. It just feels wrong. And, well, I wanted to get, you know, some type of economic advantage moving forward. Opponent does pick it. I will not be defending against that properly because realistically I can't. I can try and distract it with some chaff, but distracting it and taking it down, that is a bit too much on round 4. In this case, I will simply ignore it because I wanted to get mechanical division, and I had other stuff to get, right? I need to get some value out of efficient tech research. We still want range on our Wraith. Apart from that, you know, I'm relatively happy with where we're sitting, but man, it is so awkward not being allowed to build crawlers in this scenario. I really, really wanted to, but I'm not allowed. So anytime I want to build a crawler, I basically have to build a steel ball. The value is good, though. You get, you know, 20 crawlers per steel ball pack. And there's 24 normally in a pack of crawlers, so it's almost 1-to-1 with how much you get. And of course, you also get the steel ball body, right, when you buy that steel ball. Right side, I mean, again here, opponent also somehow not building a lot of chaff, going more sledgehammers still. And yep, there we go. I just go for 2 more packs of steel balls because I'm saying to myself, well, my opponent hasn't really built anything yet that deals with mechanical division very well. So let's just try and keep that going. Don't have range on the Wraith just yet. If felt like I didn't need it. I have plenty of steel balls with less range than my my Wraith, but it should be able to stay in front. Now, we do get debuffed, sadly, because of that Overlord, which will start to move to my units and flank them from behind. But we're still doing kind of okay here. I mean, my steel balls are getting stuck somewhat. It is hard to get through sledgehammers, but at the same time, it seems like my opponent isn't really managing to get through my steel balls efficiently whatsoever. So we even managed to get to the tower. Again, I will lose this round. I mean, left side, I haven't done much to. I've just been stalling, right? Creating that level 2 tower. It does delay the debuff by quite some margin, but we still end up dying there. Again, we take more damage. Round 4, you know, we've been taking a pounding, but now the mid-game arrives, and we have been able to, you know, potentially grab some good economic cards, set up a board that is a bit more scary with already a tech, you know, on the steel balls. So as long as I don't get completely spelled out the game at this point, I think I have a decent chance. Another efficient tech research shows up here. My opponent didn't pick the first one, does pick this second one. I could grab it, honestly. Quick TP also shows up again. Not bad whatsoever, but I decide to go for the Assault Fortress. Reason being, I thought to myself, well, if my opponent will go Hacker at some point, because I was a bit scared of that, it is kind of the main counter to this type of board. If you see your opponent not build any chaff and build Mechanical Division steel balls, don't be afraid to press that Hacker button. You won't regret it. But yeah, hackers are weak to things like Barrier Fortress, and honestly, Barrier Fortress is just good on the front line, because that way I can protect my units from getting missiled, right? So that was the idea here with the Assault Fort. It gets a whole bunch of good stats, more attack, more hit points, more speed, and you only lose 10 range for that, which in this scenario doesn't mean anything. I'm right in front of my opponent, so what even is range? I do grab it on my Wraith, because that's the one important unit that I kind of need to keep alive. My opponent finally does start buying a little bit of chaff crawler there, as you guys can see. And we're in the process of setting up here. I would like to get Barrier, but it is a very expensive tech, so it's not meant for round number 5. If I can get away with this, though, I mean, look at that. Fortress into Sledgehammer, Arclight, Steel Balls, and Typhoon. Sounds pretty nasty to me. So yeah, I liked my odds here. I do run a carry setup with range overload, barrier, and then anti-air in case my opponent has a whole bunch of, you know, phoenixes or wasps. But I was planning to go for the overload tech here and the barrier tech. Wraith, sitting nice and pretty, able to take out some of these phoenixes. And this time, it seems like we're quite heavily favored. Both of my fortresses still alive, still on full hit points, and while the left side is trying to push in, this tower is already level 3. This is also kind of the downside of trying to, you know, have a lot of sledges on one side of the board as the defender. They're not fast, they don't deal a lot of DPS. The same thing can be said for marksmen, so I don't really have to address that left side that much. I can just level my tower, and as you can see, it takes the entire round to not even get that tower for my opponent. So finally we strike back, dealing a ton of damage. On the first round we win, and now it's round number 6, more unit reinforcements show up. My opponent decides to go for an Overlord, which I think is a decent pickup there. But luckily that I know that my anti-air isn't great, and so I decide to pick up the Farseers. The other reason Farseer is nice is because I run Photon Emission, which is a fantastic pairing with Mechanical Division Steel Balls, because it can eventually protect against, you know, the EMP answers some people might go for. EMP Arclight or EMP Raiden get fully blocked, and it means that my Steel Balls will be spawning their crawlers even when they die. This round, I mean, we are just going ham. I'm happy that I got some anti-air. I want to see if my opponent actually committed to going air, which they certainly did. The ground cannon has been picked up. 3 Overlords on that right side. Nasty, nasty stuff. Overlord, definitely a unit that you do want to have some chaff against. So, yeah, maybe a bit scary. But again, I do spawn 20 crawlers per steel ball pack, so it looks perhaps worse than it actually is. Opponent also going for a redeploy Phoenix on my flank. Luckily, I defend against it with that Farseer. This tower is still level 1, so I do have to be wary of the flank. It seems like the timing is just right. And we just buy more fortresses. Look at that. We're going on the flank even. Hound over there on the top right to help chaff clear. A steel ball in front. A fortress behind. And I was planning to click barrier next round to protect all of this. Sadly, though, my new fortress on the left gets instantly targeted and taken down. There's a lot of DPS from the main gun of the Overlord, plus that Overlord artillery. Right side, though, pushing in rather convincingly, and again, while he has the damage, the chaff clear is just not quite there. There are not many units in the game that can deal with Mechanical Division steel balls if you don't EMP it or hack it. In my opinion, the only two things really would be something like Vulcan, or my favorite answer is simply going Wraith yourself, because Wraith is just such a potent chaff clear unit, right? Here we're doing alright. The boats have done a good job of cleaning up for the most part. We did manage to get a debuff, but it looks like we'll be losing most of our units. The boat does take out the fortress. Oh, never mind. It survives on 1 hit point. Opponent still does have a few units left, though, so I think he should be able to kill that fortress. Let's see. We do grab the debuff. Ooh, maybe the debuff will be really good for us, actually. Let's see. The Farseer also living on 1 hit point. I feel like we're kind of scamming here. Okay, at least the opponent does take down my fortress. I feel like that was deserved. But we still end up winning. And again, this was more of a setup turn, right? Now I know the opponent has Overlords. I already have a good answer on the board in the form of those Farseers. I have range, I have burst, I have AA available if I want to. Here I decide to simply go for, I believe, an item. Yep, the haste module on that far back Farseer. We do pick up the level, and we go for barrier and AA on the Farseers. That barrier, as I talked about, will be able to block part, at least, of spells. Here, you know, considering the Overlords are locked on to the steel balls that are behind the barrier, he might insta-pop a shield. He did pick up the fire, but at level 2, that fortress, you know, 80k shield, maybe this one can survive and at least block part of it. The other nice thing is, I don't have any, like, natural chaff on my board, right? So there's no crawlers that can immediately burn here. He would have to kill my steel balls first, and steel balls themselves can definitely get through fire just fine. Also, we see a boat here in the top right. A sledgehammer, I think, has been redeployed. A boat aimed at my left side tower. It's a good move. I did add another Farseer on the left to try and target this one. I doubt it will be able to turn, even if it does, you know. It doesn't have that burst tech just yet. So let's see. A debuff could prove to be crucial. It's only 5 seconds, but with the way that he's beaconed it, if he grabs this one, I mean, that's another 9 seconds, which could be very scary. Top right's doing well. I don't have any anti-air over there, but, you know, my Overlord fortresses, it's crazy how low range they are, by the way. 70 meters. Even... Oh, no, I don't have the temp speed just yet. Or I do have temp speed, I don't have the temp range. But yeah, 70 meters, not a lot whatsoever. We do get double debuffed there for a grand total of 14 seconds, which definitely makes a difference. But still, it seems like my army is crushing. And, I mean, this is the power, right, of that Mechanical Division steel ball tech when you don't have the best at chaff clear. My opponent mainly relies here on sledgehammers and boats, which can fend for themselves, you know, as DPS units go. They're not that bad at chaff clearing, but they're still not ideal. And so, despite getting double debuffed, it does look like we're going to lose, but I get away relatively unscathed with only 1 Overlord surviving on a sliver of hit points. Round number 8, we've already made it into that late game. And immediately we see the 3rd rotation of unit drops. Opponent goes for triple level 1 Rhino. On my end, I don't really know. Nothing here looks too great. Could go Stormcaller, but I feel like the fight is really quick, which tends to not favor Stormcallers. They like kind of long-winded, long-range games where they can get multiple salvos off. Void Eye could be okay. I simply go for the Rhino myself, it seems. Could have also just picked the Cell. Opponent does have a mobilized battleship available again. I have to worry about this because, remember, that mobilized battleship will spawn an Overlord with the same techs as my opponent has. So I kind of do have to think about this. In the meantime, it seems like I'm trying to push into that left side tower. I mean, it is awfully exposed now. That is only level 1. The sledgehammers have moved elsewhere. This time around, I might be able to get away with this. Do I get debuffed, though? Did I completely forget about the Overlord? Maybe I did. Keep in mind, these subathon streaming days were very long, with basically 12-hour streams on the daily. It seems like Initially, I wanted to try and burst down this Overlord with the second tech on the Farseer picked up, but it looks like I may have, yeah, thought about the mobilized battleship at the end, undid all my actions, moved the Farseer instead in the back, added a steel ball back there to kind of function like, you know, a crawler would, to tank that first Overlord shot. And yeah, look at that. Farseer turns, one shot's okay. Looks like I'm fine. This Farseer also now moving in on that left side. Looks like it has taken a liking to this Overlord. It will take down my fortress on the left, but at the very least, I don't get debuffed. And in the meantime, yeah, we're absolutely crushing the ground, right? If you don't think about how to beat the ground, you can get in massive trouble, and this will be a ton of damage. Farseers bursting away, taking down those Overlords without any issue whatsoever. And I mean, that is a really, really big round. Opponent is in a ton of trouble. They seem to not have been able to find the correct chaff clear. And I might just get away with this challenge. Round number 9. Nothing too amazing here apart from the mobile beacon. Always nice to pick up, right? It's cheaper than the one on the tower. So I feel like it's almost always worth picking up, especially in these aggro scenarios. Now we can try and move in over here. Opponent goes for the mothership from their boats. I do have some Wraith on the right side to deal with that. Maybe on the left we could get stuck. I redeploy my Farseer from the back to right in front of this Overlord. And here I use the kind of aerial specialization trick where I can notice that my opponent hasn't put their Overlord far back enough. And because I have 30 meters of prioritized targeting, even with the sledgehammer in front, as long as the Overlord is within the base range of my Farseer, this should insta-lock. And at level 2, it might even insta-kill that level 2 Overlord. Opponent, by the way, went for Final Blitz Rhinos, which is not terrible, but we take them down relatively quick, so they mostly just damage my barriers. And yeah, I mean, at this point, we're just buying more steel balls. I am buying another Farseer in the back here. Do not want to get debuffed, because I did replace that Farseer to the left. More Boom Rhinos show up. But yeah, can my opponent chaff clear? Because look at that, right? Arc Lights here in the front. Those gets insta-popped. Typhoons at level 1. They're alright, but they're not the best type of chaff clear. And that's pretty much it, right? In the meantime, we have, what, 6 steel balls, 7 steel balls. Make that 8, 9, and 10. That is 200 extra crawlers getting spawned. The Boom Rhinos, though, doing a fantastic job on the left. Look at that. We did one-shot the Overlord as intended. But that's about the only thing that managed to survive. It is a level 3 Farseer though, so exceptionally tanky. And it should be able here, yeah, to still survive. Right side collapsing once more. The opponent just doesn't have the material on the ground to push this advance. My fortresses can't shoot up, neither can my steel balls. So once all the ground units are gone, they've got their eyes set on the turret. And with that, after 9 rounds, I do manage to complete this challenge of building No Chaff. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe I cheated, right, a little bit with mechanical division. Technically, I am getting crawlers on the board, and this is the most powerful tech on steel balls, in my opinion. Very, very hard to deal with. Only a couple of counters available. But hey, you know, I do have to try and win in some way at my MMR. I don't think I would be able to get away with literally no chaff and no spawned chaff at my level. Opponents would definitely punish that very harshly. So yeah, still interesting game. I mean, it just felt so wrong to me not being able to build any crawlers. What my opponent should have done likely was get into hackers a bit earlier. Of course, they would have run into trouble once the fortresses got barriers, which was, you know, my intent to try and block that from happening. The comp here, I'd say, is actually quite strong. They needed to find some chaff clear perhaps as well. Their own Wraith could have been helpful. It's usually my go-to answer on defense if my opponent goes very heavily into mechanical division steel balls. But yeah, a fun one for sure. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you thought of this particular game and challenge. If you liked this and you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. If you want to see me play live, where I attempt this type of stuff every now and then, please check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.